This is Gemara Masechet Taanit Shavua Tov Boker Tov Masechet Taanit Daf Yomi Aleph 38:1 says the Gemara Amar Rava. We are a few lines down, right? 2 lines down. The second last word of the Amar Rava Halakha Kerashbad. Halakha is like Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, that he prohibits only Shavua Shechal Bo Tisha B'Av. Okay, he doesn't prohibit anything else. The Amar Rava, and Rava says Halakha Kerbimid. The halakha is like Kerbimid, that it's only asur before Tisha B'Av, but after Tisha B'Av it is permitted. If you remember, v'tarvayu lekula, and both of them are going lekula, which means like this. There were 2 different halachot. First halakha is that what about after Tisha B'Av, but in the same week, okay? And then there's another halakha, right? So there we went lenient, that it's only before Tisha B'Av. After Tisha B'Av is permitted. Another halakha was, when is it prohibited before? Is it only the week of Tisha B'Av, or already from Rosh Chodesh until Tisha B'Av? We also pass lekula. Utzricha, and we need both cases, both psakim. Why? Diashmin and halakha kerebimid. What's if you're going to tell me now that the halakha is like kerebimid, which means that what? Havamina, I would have thought to say that it's going to be only before Tisha B'Av and not afterwards. Havamina, I would have thought to say a few Rosh Chodesh. So then even from Rosh Chodesh until Tisha B'Av is going to be a problem. Kamashmalan, come teach you the halakha is like Rashbag, that it's only the same Shavua Shechal Bo Tisha B'Av, only the same week of Tisha B'Av, but not before then. Not from Rosh Chodesh. And now if you were going to tell me halakha like Rashbag, I would have thought to say that even after Tisha B'Av, that means if Tisha B'Av falls out on a Tuesday, so not only is it prohibited for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, it would also be prohibited on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Come teach you that it's only asur before and not afterwards. Until here, everyone clear? Very good. Says the 2 dots. So Sudat Masechet, you're not allowed to eat 2 different types of food, right? That's Shne Tavshilin. Amar Rav Yehuda says, Lo Shanu, what are we dealing with? Ela mishesh shaot ulmala, from 6 hours and onwards. Aval mishesh shaot ulmata, but 6 hours, right? And meaning from until Chatzot, basically. Okay? Until Chatzot Hayom. But from 6 hours, right? Until Chatzot, right? Ulmata, mutar, it is permitted to eat whatever you want. Which means before Chatzot, bon appetit, eat whatever you want. After Chatzot, it's a problem. Okay? The Amar of Yehuda, and says of Yehuda, Lo shanu ela b'seuda mafsik ba. But that's only in Seudat HaMafseket. Aval b'seuda shenu mafsik ba, but if it's not Seudat HaMafseket, mutar. So for example, it's after Chatzot, and I want to eat at 2 o'clock, and I'm going to have a feast. It's all milky. Remember, it's Shavua Shechal Bo, yeah? But I'm allowed to. There's no problem. Because it's only Seudat HaMafseket which is prohibited. After Seudat HaMafseket, everything is permitted. Okay? V'tarvaihu lekula. And everything is lekula, which means both of the dinim, right, are lekula. We go lenient. Okay? Right? What does it mean we go lenient? Yeah? So he says, utzricha. And we need both of them. Right? Why? He says, di yashminan. But if you're going to tell me, right, di yashminan besuda mafsikba, that it was only going to be in Sudat HaMafseket, hava mina, I would have thought to say, yeah, he comes, hava mina, I would have thought to say, afilu mishesh shaot ulmata, even from 6 hours and onwards. Okay? Kamashmalan comes to teach you, shesh shaot ulmala, 6 hours and above. The yashmina and shesh shaot ulmala, if it only told you after 6 hours, remember, chatzot is always 6 hours into the day, because chatzot is midday. Midday means it's 6 hours. It's also the same thing with Chatzot Laila. Chatzot Laila is always half of the night because it's 6 hours into the night. So whenever you say Chatzot, it's always midday or midnight. Okay? So I would have thought to say, since it's written Shesh Shaot Mala, which means after Chatzot, after 6 hours, Hava, I mean, I would have thought to say Afilu B'Suda Shem Masikba, even if it's a Suda, which is not a Sudat Mafseket. Kamashmalan comes teach you B'Suda Mafsikba. It has to be Sudat Mafseket. So basically, it taught us both halachot to teach you that it's only Sudat HaMafseket which is prohibited, and also if it's before the 6 hour, there's no problem whatsoever. But whatever you're doing, okay? I can't hear you. There's the Gemara. Tanya Kilishna Kama, Tanya Kilishna Batra. We have a Braita that was teaching like the first Braita, right? Which was like the first one of Rav Yehuda, that there's a prohibition of 2 foods only after Chatzot, and then we had a Braita, right, that was teaching us like the second one, which was Rav Yehuda, that it's only going to be asur b'sudat HaMafseket. So Tadya Kilishna Batra, we learned in a Braita in accordance to Lishna Batra, so Erev Tisha B'Av, if you're going to eat on Erev Tisha B'Av, imatil l'suda acher, if you're going to eat another time, מותר לאכול בשר ולשתות יין. You're allowed to even eat meat and drink wine. Okay? Tanya Kilishna Kama, we taught like the first Braita. Erev Tisha B'Av lo yochal adam shnei tavshilin. On Erev Tisha B'Av, do not eat two foods. Lo yochal basar v'lo yishteh yayin. You're not allowed to eat meat, you're not allowed to drink wine. Rashbag Omer Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, Yeshaneh. Yeshaneh. What does it mean, Yeshaneh? Change from that which you're normally doing. Amar Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda, how are you going to change? He says, you usually eat two tavshilin, eat one. If you usually eat with 10 people, so you eat with 5 people. If you usually drink 10 cups of wine, you only drink 5. Yeah? So when you mean one of these words, from 6 hours and onwards. But if it's going to be before chatzot, mutar. Basically, before chatzot, you could do whatever you want. Right? Why? Because it's before chatzot on Erev Tisha B'Av. Tanya Yidach, we also saw in another Braita, Erev Tisha B'Av lo yochal adam shnei tavshilin. Erev Tisha B'Av, a person should not eat 2 different meals. Lo yochal, not 2 different meals, 2 different foods. Lo yochal basar lo yishteh yain, don't eat meat and don't drink wine. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Chachamim says Yeshaneh. You should change from that which you're accustomed to doing. You're going to minimize them. How are you going to minimize? If you usually eat a liter of basar, yochal chetzi litra. So eat half. So basically, if you eat a kilo of meat, eat half a kilo. You usually drank a log of wine. So let's say that's around, 600 milliliters of wine. So what are you going to do? Yishteh chetzi log. Drink 300. And if you don't drink at all, asur, so don't drink at all. Rashbag Omer, if you used to eat, whether it's going to be a fish, right, or meat, which was, for 3 days, right? After Suda, it's already, since it's already been there for 3 days, it doesn't have a taste at all, so therefore you're allowed to. Okay? Tanya Yidach, we've also learned in a Braita, as long as it's going to be for a Suda for Tisha B'Av, which is Seudah Masechet, you're not allowed to eat meat and drink wine. And you're not allowed to wash, right, from that Seudah onwards. But if it's not because of Tisha B'Av, you're allowed to eat meat, you're allowed to drink wine, you're not allowed to wash yourself, right? Rabbi Yishmael Rabbi Yosef says, in the name of his father, as long as you're allowed to eat meat, you're allowed to take a shower, you're allowed to wash yourself. Again, one more time, I will repeat, this is all going in accordance to the strict halacha, before the minhag, which they used to eat meat during the 9 days, right? Because that was the shitat of the Gemara, and that was the Rambam. Nowadays, we have a minhag not to eat meat from already Rosh Chodesh until Tisha B'Av. Beforehand, it was only on Seudat HaMaseket. That's it. There's nothing else. You're allowed to eat meat and drink wine throughout the entire week.
Maybe like the Yemen, no?
Like the Tamanim. Huh? Yeah, Shabbat you're allowed to, but I'm saying, but during the 9 days. The Shamanim until today, they eat meat and drink wine during the 9 days. Only time that it's prohibited for them. Well, fine, but whenever they eat basar, they're allowed to eat basar except for the Sudat.
But even in if they're in Avelut.
Where's the Gemara? Okay, Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita, Kol mitzvot hanoagot be'avel, noagot be'tisha b'av. All the halachot that have to do with Avelut have to do with Tisha B'Av. Asur ba'achila u'shtiya u'sicha v'nilat azum tashrish v'mitah. You're not allowed to eat and drink, anoint yourself, put on shoes, have marital relations. Asur likro b'Torah. You're not allowed to read, whether it's Torah v'im u'ktuvim, ve'lishnom Mishnah, or to learn Mishnah, but Talmud and Gemara, b'midrash, halachot agadot, and different halachot, and in Yaakov, and things like that, agadot. Aval koreu b'makom she'eno ragil likro. But you have to read in something which you're not accustomed to reading. And to learn something which you're not accustomed to reading. And you're going to read kinot, Yov, dvarim hareim sheb'miyah, bad things that happen, right? The calamities that happen in Yirmiyahu Navi, right? And the children, they don't learn. It says in that the mitzvot of Hashem, they're going to make a person happy. So therefore, if you're going to start learning, you're going to be all joyful. So you can't do that. Rabbi Yehuda says, you're not supposed to read in a place where you don't usually read, and you don't learn in a place where you don't usually learn. Right, but rather you read. Basically, the concept is that if it's something new, so you're not it's not like something that you're accustomed to doing, so it's not normal. But then afterwards he comes and he says, but you're doing things of bad things. 2 dots. Everyone with me? You're not supposed to eat meat, you're not allowed to drink wine. Tana, we learned to the Braita. Aval ochelu basar maliach. But you're allowed to eat basar maliach, because it's not mamash basar. Right? Basar maliach means that salted meat, because it's not mamash meat. You're allowed to drink wine from its, I don't know how you say it in English, from the, when they're making the wine. How do you say yain migito? Yain, which is from the vat. Thank you. From the wine, because it's new wine, which means that it's not good for you. Basar maliach al kama, meat which is salted until when? As long as it's still considered a basar, which is for shlamim, which is until 3 days, it's still considered basar. After that, it's not considered basar, and therefore, right? That's what he says here, and that's why after that it's not considered basar. Before that, you're not allowed to eat it in Sudat Masechet. After the 3 days, now already it's been salted for such a long time, it doesn't have a good taste anymore. You could eat it even for Sudat Masechet. Yeah, aged. Amar no, but the aged is actually better taste. So it's not the same. No, so he says, Amar al Chadim Nishmin Deshua Kozman Kishlamim. The Yaimi Gitot Kama, Kozman Shu Toses, as long as it's going to be Toses. Tani and Toses should be Gilui. The Kama Tesiseto Shoshayim in 3 days. So basically, there's no problem of Gilui. Remember, Gilui means that if you have the wine which is uncovered, so then we suspect that maybe it's going to be that there's going to be a serpent or whatever that's going to snake that's going to come, and it's going to poison, right? It's going to put the poison, but we don't have that as long as it's going to be Toses. I'm going to view the Rav, says the name of Rav. He used to bring dry bread in salt. The Yoshev and used to sit. For those who didn't realize we started, right? 30b. Ben tanuli kirayim, right? Between the oven and the stove. The ochel and used to eat. The shote alea kiton shema used to drink water. The domeke mishem etom mutal lefanav. And he was compared to a person that is dead, deceased, is right in front of him. By the way, there were a lot of big tzaddikim. So this is what they used to do. Mamash, seudat hamafseket pashut. They used to be on the floor, crying. Their tears used to go inside of the cup of water, right? And they used to be eating the bread, dry bread with salt, right? And what's it called? That's it. Mamash. Huh? No, the cholol ispa vadai. I was saying about the concept of that kemisha mutal lefanav. Okay? Huh? Rishon gamken. Yeah. Rishon vadai. We learned over there, in a place where they have a minhag of doing milacham Tisha B'Av, they do it. With a place they don't have a minhag to do work, and also you don't do work. And in any place, the Talmidei Chachamim are always going to be batel from milacha. Rashbag Omer Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, you should always be a Talmid Chacham like this. Meaning that to do with this, try to be a Talmid Chacham. Don't work. Yeah? We also learned to the right that a person should always make himself a Talmid Chacham and not work on Tisha B'Av in order that he will have a proper inui. Okay? Because basically what happens is that when people start working, they forget about what's going on. That's why, by the way, Ravel is not allowed to work. But it's still an inui, but it's not the same. When you're working, you completely forget about the fast. Right? That's why is an Avel not allowed to work during the 7 days? Because it's Sechadat. It takes his mind off the Avelut. He doesn't remember that he's in Avelut. He's working. He's doing other things. So the same thing here. If he's going to start, so it takes his mind off. Tanya Idach, we also learned in another bright. Anybody that eats and drinks on Tisha B'Av, it's like he's eating and drinking on Kippur. And it just shows how powerful it is. I mean, some people, big deal, he's going to eat on Tisha B'Av. No, it's like you're eating on Kippur. What? No, it's not karet because you can't make it. It's ki'ilu. It's ki'ilu. What?
Eating on Tisha B'Av.
Yeah, eating on Tisha B'Av, eating and drinking on Tisha B'Av. It's like eating and drinking on Kippur. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Kol ha'oseh melacha b'Tisha B'Av, eno roeh siman beracha leolam. Anybody that works on Tisha B'Av doesn't see siman beracha forever, right? Okay, obviously that means in that beracha, right?
Yes.
No, in that melacha we're going to see. Chachamim omrim leolam. So some people say that leolam means on that work. Okay, on that. Chachamim say, Kol ha'oseh melacha b'Tisha B'Av eno mitabel Yerushalayim. Anybody that does melacha on Tisha B'Av and he does not mitabel on Yerushalayim, he does not mourn on Yerushalayim, eno roeh b'simchata, he does not see the simcha of Yerushalayim. Shneimar says the pasuk simchot Hashem yigilu bah, kol ohavei asisu itah, masos kol mitabim alea. Mikan amru, and therefore they say, kol mitabel on Yerushalayim. Anybody that's going to be mitabel Yerushalayim zocher velo b'simchata is actually seeing the simcha of Yerushalayim. If he doesn't mitabel Yerushalayim, does not see the simchat Yerushalayim v'simchata. Tanya Miachri also learned in the Braita, Kol ha'ochel basar v'shotei yom Tisha B'Av. Alav ha'katuv omer, anybody that's going to eat meat and drink wine on Tisha B'Av, on him the pasuk says in Yechezkel, v'tehi avonotam al atzmotam. Their sins are on their bones. Okay, that's what it says on somebody that eats and drinks on Tisha B'Av. Next, 2 dots.
Wine and meat.
Yeah, wine and meat. Yeah. Rabbi Yehuda mechayev kfiyat hamita v'lo duhu chachamim. So Rabbi Yehuda says that you're obligated to sleep on the floor. This is the kfiyat hamita. But the chachamim do not agree to it. Tanya, we learned in the right Amru, Rabbi Yehuda, they told Rabbi Yehuda, lidvarecha, according to your words, ubarot minikot mate alehen. What's going to happen to women that they're pregnant or they're feeding? Right? Amalayim, he says, afani lo amarti ela b'mi yachol. No. Women that are pregnant or women that are feeding, I didn't say that. That they could sleep on a regular bed. Right? Only people that they could. Right? Why? Because they're not able to. So Tanya Miachri, we also learned it in the Braita. So it says here that Rabbi Yehuda agrees to the Chachamim and women that they cannot fast or they cannot fast. They cannot sleep on the floor, that they don't need to. And Chachamim agreed to Rabbi Yehuda that if you could, you're supposed to. So my benai, so what's the difference between them then? In the other beds that you're not sleeping on them. Because the Tanya, as we learned in the Braita, when we said he had to turn the beds over, it's not only his own bed. He has to turn over all the beds in the house to show that everyone's in Avelut, even though nobody's sleeping there. You have to turn over all the beds. Amar Rava says, the halacha is like our Tana of our Mishnah, that they did not agree to it whatsoever. 2 dots. Amar Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, they were not Yamim Tovim LeYisrael like the Tu B'Av and Kippur. So Tu B'Av is like Kippur also. I understand Kippur. I was like, at the end of the day, Kippur, we're just atoned. That's the biggest Yom Tov that a person could have. You know what it is, a Yom Tov? That all of a sudden we come and we say, Baruch Hashem, you're completely forgiven. You feel all that, on your heart. The cardiac Jew, he feels very good all of a sudden. Yeah, what happens? All of a sudden he feels on himself, he could breathe. Why? All his averot, they were taken away. So obviously, Yom Shenitnu Bo Luchot Achanot, the second Luchot were given, El HaChamishasar B'Av, and on the 15th of Av. What happened in Tu B'Av? Ma'hi, Amar Rav Yehuda Mashua says Yehuda Mashmuel, Yom sheutru shevatim lavo ze bazeh. It was the day that they were permitted, the shevatim, to get married to each other, which means usually one shevet could not get married to another shevet because they always wanted that the inheritances should always stay in the same shevet. So imagine right now you have a shevet of Yehuda with Binyamin, and now all of a sudden they get married, and now all the properties start transferring, and then it becomes a balagan, it becomes problematic, right? So what happened? So they went and they said, now it's permitted. My darush, what was the drasha for this? It says, this is what the Kadosh Baruch Hu commanded to the daughters of Tzlofchad. This concept is only going to be in that generation. Meaning the concept that they had to get married from someone from Mishpachot Yosef, right? It was in order to make sure that the inheritances did not leave the property of Yosef. It always had to stay in the tribe of Yosef HaTzadik. Okay, so Amar of Yosef Nachman says of Yosef Nachman, Yom Shutal Shavim Lavov Kahal. This is not the Shvatim that they were permitted to come to each other, but rather there's another reason. That was when Binyamin was permitted to come into the Kahal. Shneimar, but it says in a pasuk, this is after Pilegesh V'Giva, right? It says in the pasuk, V'ish Yisrael Nishba B'Mitzvah Lemon Ish Mimenu Litem B'To L'Binyamin L'Isha, that nobody's allowed to give their wives to Binyamin as a wife. Remember the story of Pilegesh V'Giva is that there was a person that had a Pilegesh. A Pilegesh is a concubine, which means that it's not a true wife, but it's like a wife, which means that she doesn't have a ketubah, right? So now, like this, to do with a Pilegesh, right? What? Yeah, to do with a Pilegesh, right? The concept is that all of a sudden, he went and the person got into a fight with his Pilegesh. The Pilegesh ran away to her father. Yeah? Now, the Pilegesh, remember, Pilegesh is full-fledged Jew. We're not talking about, Goya or things like that. 100%, we're talking about it's a second wife, but it just doesn't have the same laws as a wife. Okay? There's no ketubah. Okay? So what happens is as follows, right? All of a sudden, he went to the father-in-law's house, and basically he tried to appease the Pilegesh in order to come back. And the Bnei Binyamin, the people of Binyamin, they came and they started knocking on the door because they wanted to have relations with the man, with the husband. Yeah? They all came out of the closet, right? They came running and they went and they were trying to have relations with the man. What happened is that they sent out the Pilegesh, and when they sent out the Pilegesh, right, they went and they had relations with her the entire night until the morning. She was trying to climb back up the stairs and she died. because obviously it's known that if a person has too much relations, it could actually kill a person, right? So what happened was they had relations with her so many times until she was dead. She died. What he did was he cut her up into 12 pieces, and he sent a piece to every single one of the tribes, telling them this is what Binyamin did. Right? All the Jews from all the other tribes sent to Sheva Binyamin, you either give us the culprits, right, or you're in trouble. What's culprits? Culprits are the bandits. They're the ones which are in charge, the ones that did it. Yeah, right. So what happened? They went and they didn't. So they went in war. The 10 tribes, right? Not only 10, it was 11. Mamash, everybody went to war against Binyamin. They almost killed out all of Sheva Binyamin. Don't think that Binyamin didn't do bad also to Bnei Yisrael. Bnei Yisrael also lost a lot of people, but they almost completely obliterated. Mamash, they completely almost killed out all of Binyamin. In the Midbar or in Israel? This is in Israel, all right. This is in the Nevim. Yeah, so what happened was, there's in Shofatim. Yeah, so what happened is that all of a sudden, right afterwards, Binyamin, they basically made peace. They surrendered, they made peace. And then what happens here is now it was permitted for Binyamin to get married to other women. Why? Because if Binyamin was not going to start getting married to other wives, they would have been completely, that's it, wiped off the map. That means there's no Sheva Binyamin anymore. So therefore, the day that Binyamin was permitted to get married to everybody else, and again, this was because of Pilegesh Begiva. It was a very famous story, right, in the history books, right, in the Shofatim. Why? Because this was the time that, look what happened. So my Darush, what is the Drasha? Amar Rav, right, says Rav, right, Mimenu. What does it mean, Mimenu? Velo mibanenu, from them and not from our children, which means the Shavua was only on them. That means they couldn't give their own daughters to Binyamin, but not from their children, right? Another reason, Rabbi Barachan Rabbi Yochanan, Hayom shekalu mete bingbar. So basically, a third reason. That means one more time. What was the reason why we have such a simcha on Tu B'Av? Either because it was when the Shvatim were permitted to get married within each other, nothing to do with Pilegesh Begiva. Second answer, after Pilegesh Begiva, Sheva Binyamin was permitted to come and to get married to within us, right? And answer number 3, Rabbi Yochanan says, the Metemidbar, they stopped dying, right, on that time. The Amar Mor says, until the Kalum, nobody, Hashem did not speak with Moshe. Right? Now was the Dibur, which means like this. We remember that on Tisha B'Av, remember that Tisha B'Av was a memorial Nachala list. Right, that means if you ever thought about nachalot, right, the most nachalot on the year always came out on Tisha B'Av. Why? Because every single year on Tisha B'Av, right, and they used to come and dig graves, and they used to go and sleep in the graves. In the morning, they used to come and get up, and they used to say, okay, whoever's alive, come out. The ones who were alive came out, the other ones went, boom, they just buried them. They finished off the burial. Why? Because every single year on Tisha B'Av, everybody was dying on Tisha B'Av during the desert for the 40 years. Came the 40th year, they all go to sleep on Tisha B'Av, and they all wake up, and they all come out. So then they're saying, what? No, everybody would sleep. Everybody would sleep in the tombstones. Yeah. So what happened was, yeah. So what happens is that all of a sudden, 9th of Av, everyone wakes up. They get out. What's going on? So you know what? Maybe we made a mistake. The 10th of Av, they go to sleep. 11, 12, 13, 14. When it comes to 15, they come and they see it's a full moon. If they see it's a full moon, that's already Tu B'Av. They already know that they didn't make a mistake anymore on the day. That means they were correct with the day. So they went and they made a miracle. They went and made a Yom Tov. Why? Kalu metemidbar. Right? So he says, Ula Amar. Ula comes and he gives a 4th reason now. Ula says, Yom shebitel Hoshea ben Elah, pidasyot she'ashiv Yerovam ben Nevat al drachim, shelo yalu Yisrael l'regel. Remember that we already mentioned this a few times. Yerovam ben Nevat, right? He was the king of Israel. It was Rechavam, the son of Shlomo Melech, was king of Yehuda ben Yamin, and the king of Yisrael, Malchei Yisrael, was Yerovam ben Nevat. Yerovam ben Nevat had a technical problem, right? His nose, right, kavod, right? His nose was in the air. He knows that if he goes to the Bet HaMikdash, who's the only one that's allowed to sit in the Bet HaMikdash? The king of Yehuda. The king of Yehuda means Rechovam. He's the one that sits, the only one that's allowed to sit in the Hazara, and he's the one that reads the Sefer Torah right on the end of the Hakel. So now he has a technical problem. He's not from Yehuda. Now they're going to go to the Bet HaMikdash. What are they going to give kavod to? To Malchei Yehuda, not to him. So what did he do? He went and he put soldiers. Nobody's allowed to do Aliyah L'Regel. Nobody's allowed to go to the Bet HaMikdash. He stopped everybody from going to the Bet HaMikdash. Right? And that's why he was Chotel Machti et Arabim. he sinned and he caused others to sin as well. What happened? No. Rehovam was the son of Zedek. This is Yerovam ben Nevat. Yerovam ben Nevat. Okay, so he says over here, what happened is that this person, Hoshea ben Elah, he annulled the Shomrim that Yerovam ben Nevat placed. So Yerovam ben Nevat put foot soldiers and soldiers that they're not allowed to go to Yerushalayim to do Aliyah L'Regel. This person, Hoshea ben Elah, he annulled them. When did he annul them? Tu B'Av. Because of that, we made Tu B'Av into a very big party. Ve'amar, and says the Gemara, 31a1. Wherever you want to go up, you could go. You want to go to Jerusalem? Go up to Jerusalem. You want to go up to Bet El or to Dan? Go up there, wherever. Which means that even though he didn't tell them now you're forced to go to Aliyah L'Regel, but the fact that he annulled the policemen that are stopping them to do Aliyah, that was already enough. And then he told them, you guys do whatever you want. Rav Matana, now he's going to come and he's going to give another reason for Chamisha Asar B'Av. Rav Matana says, Yom Shenitzu Harugei Betar Lekvura. Betar were killed after the Bet HaMikdash. This is after the rebellion of Bar Kokhba. Remember, Bar Kokhba was thought to be the Mashiach. Remember that Rabbi Kiva thought. Remember, that means false Mashiachs didn't only happen in the year 2000 or whatever it is, in 1900s or 2000s. False Mashiachs were all throughout history of Klal Yisrael, and history repeats itself. Now, why is it so bad, a false Mashiach? It's so bad because it actually causes that a lot more people lose faith than gain faith. Some people think, you're going to gain a lot of faith, because now everyone thinks the Mashiach is here. Yeah, but then it causes a lot of problems, right? It's 8:30, right? So he says, which one? Yeah, so what happened was they thought that he was Mashiach, or Kokhba was a Mashiach, and then afterwards he was killed. So what happened is that when he was killed, during that rebellion, what happened was there was a whole bunch of people that Betar was all killed out. And it was a mamash, it was like another Khurban, it was like another destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. What happened is that day they were given Kvura. They were able to be buried. What beracha do we institute for Harugei Betar? Atov HaMativ and Birkat HaMazon. The fourth blessing of Birkat HaMazon is Atov HaMativ. Why Atov HaMativ? Because there were the good things, that the bodies did not decompose, and they were given to Kvura. And it was a long time. Says the Gemara, Ve'amar Rav Matna, and says Rav Matna, that day that the Harugei Betar was given to Kvura, Tiknu B'Yavne, they went and they instituted Atov HaMativ. Atov shelo yisrichu, that they didn't decompose. V'Hamativ shelo shenitnu Kvura, they were given to Kvura. Rabbi Rav Yosef Damar Tavayu, Rabbi and Rav Yosef both said, Yom shepaskum lichlot etzinu manacha. This is now a sixth reason. Yeah, so if Dr. John Paul, if you're writing them down, this is now the sixth reason. Yeah, number 6. Yom shepaskum lichlot etzinu manacha was the day that they stopped cutting wood for the maracha. Right, and therefore, right, because that was the Tu B'Av. So since they stopped cutting wood for the manacha, for the fire that they needed on the mizbeach, it was an extra simcha. Tanya was learned in a Braita. Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol says, from the 15th of Av and onwards, the shemesh, the sun, became weakened. And they wouldn't come and start cutting wood for the manacha. It's not dry. Meaning after the 15th of Av, it was already not, the sun wasn't in the same potent, and therefore, since they have the same power, if the wood was not dry enough, so they stopped cutting wood. Menashe says, they used to call that day Yom Tevar Magal, the day that they used to break the axes. Because basically, since they used to stop cutting the wood, so they would, Keilu was like a day that they would cut the axes. They would break the axes because basically they wouldn't take it anymore.
The wood was for the fire,
for the Mizbeach, the Maracha of the Mizbeach. Remember, on the Mizbeach, they had 3 Marachot, 3 different places of fire. Mikam ve'elach, from then onwards, the Mosif Yasif. It says from then onwards the days become longer, right? Which means Shaot Alayla, right, becomes longer. Udulo Mosif Yasef. Right now, if you're not going to be Osek Batorah Belelot Yasef, which means that from Tu B'Av and onwards, right, the days become shorter and the night becomes longer. Remember, during the summertime, the days are longer and the nights are shorter. After the equinox, which is usually, but here is saying the equinox is like from Tu B'Av. So after the Tu B'Av, it starts becoming the opposite. You have shorter, right, shorter days and longer nights. Okay, so my Yasef, what do you mean Yasef? His mother will bury him, which means that he'll die too early. Meaning that if he's not going to be learning Torah in the night times, so then his mother will bury him, because it means that they will die early, not in the proper times. Okay, then it says in the 2 dots, Sheben Benot Yerushalayim. We learned in the Braita, Bat Melech Sholem Bat Kohen Gadol. The daughter of the king would borrow clothing from the daughter of the Kohen Gadol. Bat Kohen Gadol would borrow from the Bat Zikan Kohen Gadol, from the deputy Kohen Gadol. Bat Zikan, the daughter of the deputy Kohen Gadol, would borrow from the daughter of the Meshach Milchama, the one that is anointed to go to war. The daughter of the one which is anointed to go to war, is going to borrow from the Bat Kohen Idiot, from a regular Kohen Idiot. And all Jews, they borrow from each other in order not to embarrass anyone, which means like this. If every girl would put on her own clothing, so what about the aniyot? The aniyot, they would feel bad. So what happens? Everybody borrows from everybody. And now that everybody's borrowing, nobody feels bad that everyone's borrowing. So they did it purposely in order not to embarrass anyone. Kol hakelim, all the utensils needed tevilah. What do you mean tevilah? Amar Rabbi Elazar, says Rabbi Elazar, even if they were in a box, which means nobody touched them. And if nobody touched them, it's not tameh. No, you have to do it. Why? Because they did the same thing. They didn't want to come and maybe it was a nida problem, it was a this, it was tameh. They didn't want any problems. Come do tevilah to all the clothing to make sure that everything is going to be pure. The daughters of Israel used to go out and used to dance in the vineyards. Tana, we said, whoever didn't have a wife would go there, right? And then they would try to take a wife. The ones that had a lot of good genealogy, they would say, Bachur, put your eyes in a family. Tana, we learned to write down. What would the beautiful one say? Look at beauty. Why? What's the purpose of a wife? For beauty. So look, shuf aynik. Look at me because I'm beautiful. What would the miyuchasot say? The ones which are right. Stop talking about the wives. Yeah. Put your eyes to the families. Why? What do you want the wife for? To have children. Well, everything depends on the family. Meaning that you want the genealogy coming back, so you're always going to pay attention to the family. So pay attention to family. You care now about beauty, but the beauty comes and goes. The family, your genealogy, that's what continues.
He says if you marry for beauty, you end up divorcing.
Yes, 100%. You're correct.
Money
Also money. You're right. 100%. The ugly ones. What would they say? Get married l'shem shamayim. I think it's a mitzvah. Do l'shem shamayim. Well, you're going to do it now for beauty or for. They were ugly. They didn't have genealogy. So at least l'shem shamayim. Uvilvad shetetarenu bezuvim. No, it's not the Yofiyim. He said, as long as you're going to come and you're going to give me beautiful adornments in order to come and in order to give me all the rest, and Bezrat Hashem,